Welcome to another video from Dr. Lock. As you can see, my bench is a mess, and if your bench doesn't look like this, well, you're probably not busy enough. Okay, so there is a new lock that's come onto the market. So we've got car keys, padlocks, cams everywhere. There's a new lock that's come onto the market, and I wanted to take you through and show you just a little bit about it, because there are a lot of factors here that I've just recently found out about as well, and some of the factors are pretty important. Right, so the lock we're talking about is the Carbine Alpha. Carbine Alpha. So this is what you would call neck to neck with the Lockwood 001. Originally when this came out, I thought to myself, oh, you know, I don't want to swap from the 001. All the boys know it, they know how to fit it, they know the flaws, they know the parts, they know how it works, they're familiar with it. And I thought taking on a new lock in place of the lock that we've used for the last 20 years is just going to cause us trouble. And then slowly by slowly I started looking at the features and the benefits of this lock, and I thought to myself, you know what, it is kind of time to change over. It's kind of like changing a mobile phone. You never want to do it, but every now and then you got to bite the bullet and do it and move over to a new system. So some of the benefits on this one I'm just going to rattle off real quick. As you might know, if you've been buying 001s, you might have seen the prices jumped up by 50 to 60, 70%. So originally what happened was they went down on special, and then overnight the prices went up and the special got reduced or taken away. So basically you're paying extra 80% for your Lockwood 001s from your suppliers. And not to say that the supplier Lockwood favours places like Bunnings over other places that supply to Locksmiths. So that's not desirable. So this product here is actually made in Australia and built by Australians for the Australian market. So that's a plus on that side of the fence. As with the Lockwood 001, it might have been designed in Australia, but generally it's made overseas these days. So they're not really keeping, how would you say, the juice in Australia. This product is made here, designed here, for here, and designed to be functionable and all the rest. And what they've done is they've ticked a lot of the boxes that Lockwood hadn't, and they've fixed a lot of the problems that Lockwood had, and they've made it universal as well. So where you would normally be fitting a 001, you could fit this, and in spots where you shouldn't be fitting a 001, you can fit this. So there's a few factors here that are really important as far as fire rating and as far as where you can and can't install this. Alright, so let's just start taking it out of the box, and I'll rattle off a few of them. I did do a video on it before, but I never actually took you through and unboxed it and showed you all about it. Right, so to start with, out of the box you're going to get some instructions. They're nothing fancy. Basically, it doesn't tell you how to install it, it just tells you your template and a few little tips around here. But that's pretty much enough for what you need. So it's a 60mm back set. You can see the screw holes can actually be put in the same screw holes as a Lockwood 001, like their same footprint here. So if you were to use your same old packing plates for 001s, you could get away with it, whether they be Perspex ones, the BDS ones, or if you're using the nice metal ones, you could get away with it. The shape is slightly different. I believe the casing's a little bit longer on this particular lock, so it would be enough to pass as a reasonably installed lock or a nicely installed lock. But ideally, if you're gonna, the packing plates are not much, these carbine packing plates, and if it means you've got to swap over, you've got to swap over. They are a superior product with extra little locating nipples on them as well. They also feature this hole at the top and this hole at the bottom. So that means that whatever footprint they were trying to marry this lock with, if you buy this correct this packing plate, one day you might need that. So I believe it's for some sort of digital or something along those lines. Someone will know, leave it in the comments. But these two holes here would be for a particular purpose, and it's not for abloy because we checked. So by having those two holes there, whatever they are, if you're using the right packing plate, you've got the right lock, you don't even then need to just buy the front part of that to make that work. I'm saying that the packing plates from Lockwood are just a slight bit longer, so they cover that little tiny edge at the front. But you could get away with the 001, as I showed you in a past video. The strike, here we are as well. This is just a metal frame strike / 3 strike. The elongated holes is what kind of makes it different. We've got a little bit of a cutout or a notch out there, which kind of makes it different as well. In the event that you've got to cut one of these down, well, I guess it'll be just the same as a Lockwood 001 when you're cutting them down around the body to get them onto the door frame, where there's not enough room in the door frame. I guess the only benefit would be is that you've got a little bit more of a locking lug there. The screws for this are different to your Lockwood 001 as well. I will show you your screws for that. They would be this screw here, where it's about 1 inch long, it's countersunk, you've got a little bit of thread here, and then you've got nothing but just a straight shaft here. You've got two of them, they are for there and there. Okay, the other screws you've got here, you've got two massive wood screws, and you've got two, I guess you could say about 25mm wood screws, and then you've got three smaller gauge, about 25mm wood screws there as well. On this side of the fence, you have these two, I guess are about 10mm long, countersunk Phillips head with a little bit of thread at the back here. Those two would be for your case. You've got four wood screws, so they're obviously for your fitting pattern, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm noticing they're a little bit smaller in length compared to the 001. Not that it's likely to make any difference. I am noticing they've also got a slight cutting head on the front of the wood screws, like a gouge out of them, to allow you to dig into that wood a little bit easier without needing to pilot drill, as with the 001s that never had that. Looking at these other screws here, so I've got 1, 2, 3 big metal threaded screws countersunk, and if I'm not mistaken, once again, they will have the cutout on the side there for actually tapping into the metal frame. So those would be, that one right there, that is for your metal frame keeper, that part right there. And I do like the elongated holes. I only wish they'd done them like a smiley face on the two sides, because what I've noticed is sometimes you put it a little bit crooked, and then if you had smileys you could have adjusted it that way. But still, elongated is better than Lockwood 001, so I'm happy. You also have two other screws here, which are your cylinder screws. That's your standard, I think it's M4 thread with your very short head on the top there. You have your hub here. This is different to the Lockwood 001 hub. As with the 001 hub, you had to pick it or put the key and turn it, put it on. This one you can just go straight over the top. And the measurements for that is no more than 2 to 5 millimeters protruding. So you see this hub? You don't want your tailpiece to be protruding through this backing plate here. The tailpiece, let's simulate it so everybody knows what I'm talking about. Okay, that's about 2 to 5 mil. You don't want it any more than that. Can you see that? See that there? If you've got it too long, you're going to have trouble. So 2 to 5 mil is the secret in the sauce to get that working properly. You would put this on, put your cylinder screw, cut that, put that straight over the top, and it looks like there is an arrow on that as well. So I would be putting the arrow facing towards the front, I would say. Yep, that looks better because it looks slightly wider here to be able to slide this on this way. Yep, looks good. Alright, so the rest of it there, I don't think we need to go too much into detail. As you can see the plate there, it's a simple push over the top and then pull back. You can tell this by the notch out in the case. It goes on and then pulls back to the lock underneath this part right here. The two screws, the case screws, which I showed you before, they're fairly straightforward. That is those small little ones right about there. A little bit of thread there, a little bit of a straight shaft, and posi head on that side. Okay, 5-pin Lockwood standard LW4 keys, nothing special, all of which are probably going to be key to differ. That's your cylinder there. That is a 6-pin cylinder. So already we're getting another advantage as a locksmith. If I want to come along and stick a restricted plug in this, I don't need to go buy another housing. I can just use this housing straight off the back and put my restricted 6-pin straight into it. The next question is, does this have spool pins? And no. That's one of the things I would say, you know, I'll send them an email and say put in some spools while you're there, just so you can compare apples with apples, as you know, Lockwood now have the spool pins. As far as picking, well, I haven't picked it, but without the spool pins I would guess it would be as much the same as picking any other 201 cylinder, any other Carbine 201 cylinder. And as far as the spool pins, well, now with the new tools and all the rest, they're no big battle for any good locksmith. Alright, looking at the actual mechanism here, now the mechanism is better than a Lockwood 001. I wasn't happy with this like 355 little tiny short push-in type thing as compared with the hub. I found the hub to be bigger on the 001s, like the connection there. But on saying that, they road tested this quite a bit and it didn't fail. So, you know, it doesn't have as much pressure as the the 355 Lockwood, so I don't think we'll see this part breaking. And they assured me, no, it's rock solid, and they've done a lot of field testing on it. I didn't jump on board with this lock originally when I first saw it because I thought, wait until they iron out all the bugs. There was one bug, they recalled a batch of them, and at their expense, and since then they've nailed it, from what I've been told. So they do stand behind their product, and they are out there to make a product that is going to definitely take the market by storm. Alright, so that's before I start pulling this apart and show you how to rekey it. Let me just show you some strikes here. So I compared this strike on another video with a Lockwood 001/4, and this was pretty much spot on identical. The other strikes as well were identical. There was a slight difference in the finish, I understand, but you know, you could mix and match the parts and get away with it quite easily. So if you had a really, how would you say, cut down, strike which was all glued into place and you didn't want to remove it on a job and you just want to swap out the lock, you could do that. And it would be a passable type finish. So the finish is close enough, and the sizing of the strikes is quite reasonable. Now there is a note here about the holdback function. When used with fire doors, check the model compatibility for primary and secondary lock. When used as a primary fire lock set on hold. Sorry, when used as a primary fire lock, set to no hold back. Okay, so to set it to no hold back is these two screws right here. This one here and this one here, which I have. So the camera just cut out there, so I'll just take up the last point. These two screw holes here are for these two little screws here. This is for your holdback function. Originally I thought you put one in and you're going to get holdback on one side, but that's not the case. You basically have to install two and then you get holdback on both sides. You remove two, you get holdback on no side. So both in or both out if you want to hold back. The instructions did say here, when using a fire door, check model compatibility for primary or secondary lock. When used as a primary lock, set to no hold back. So basically, if this is used as your primary lock, remove these two screws. So two screws in, you've got it. Two screws out, you don't have it. Screw here and screw here, remove them. When talking about using this as a primary lock, I see a lot of public housing where they're just using a deadlock above, a lot of the time a 002 where there's no key on the inside, and often a lever handle, because a lot of public housing, they could be disabled or something along those lines. You want it to be as easy for them to exit. You can actually buy the levers for these, and you can get them in lever formation and without the cylinder as well. So that's good. Also, the next thing to note is that this is fire rated as a primary lock, as where your 001 is not rated as a primary lock. So when I was talking about those public houses where they're putting this as their primary lock and they're using a passage lock below it, that I'm not sure if it even complies, because the actual lock needs to be, for one, the primary needs to be fire rated as a primary, and this is. So that's a huge difference there. So you can use these on unit front doors, and there is a fire rated certificate for it, as where I couldn't find the Lockwood 001 fire rating certificate, although it's been used for the last 20 years and deemed as a fire rated lock suitable for unit front doors. I couldn't find it. As far as the advertisement go for Lockwood 001, they had the fireman, if any of you remember, busting open a 001 and approving it, saying that it was the good lock because they could force it off the door. The screw print on this is identical, so I think we'll be dealing with the identical situation. The fire brigade are going to be able to gain access the same way that they would with a Lockwood 001. So that old advertising campaign is much of a muchness. You've got same size screws, same type of metal screws, 3 screws, same gauge, same everything. So you're pretty much talking same, because it's always the strike that gives away when the fire brigade burst open through a door. All right. So as far as fitting, we're looking at fitting it the same as a 001, identical. The instructions are there. If you can see, there's nothing really much to it. There. So top one, middle one, top one. 1A, 2A, and 1A. That's for your strike. You can see your your lines and all the rest. It's pretty much straightforward. Anybody who can fit a 001 should be able to fit one of these. All right, next important question is, since I've got one, and before you buy one, you're going to want to know, these type of questions. So that's why I do this, so that way you will have a fair idea on what you're dealing with and what you're playing with, and whether or not you want to start swapping out your stock. Oh, that's right. I was getting to that point as well. Okay, so we were buying these for a standard price. Let's say they're on special and they're $120, okay? And then the special finished, so now they're $180. Now, for you as a locksmith, you want to make some sort of money off keeping these in your truck and stocking them and all that sort of stuff, just like any other retailer, 30 to 40%. Okay, sometimes even a little bit more because it's a mobile emergency service. So if you were to say, okay, 50%, you'd be talking $90. So you're talking $270 cost for one of these now to the customer. And then if you're going to go install it, you want a service call to pay for the van, the insurance, and the petrol. Even petrol today is $2.50 a litre, and diesel's not far behind it. Plus your servicing, so running a van on the road is quite expensive. You need to charge a service call. Most service calls $100. Take as an example. So you need $100. You need what we're up to $290 for the lock. $100 for a service call, and for a fitting, since you've got to warrant it and all that sort of stuff, you've got to set up your tools, drill the holes in the door, clean up, pack up, demonstrate to the customer. You at least want to make $100 for your time and labour, which could be sometimes up to about half an hour to an hour to install any type of deadlock. By the time you get in, get out, clean up, you allow for an hour. or part thereof. So you at least want to make at least another $100. So if you're talking 2, you're up to $390. Now you're up to $490. If we're fitting Lockwood 001s for $490 and they require a packing plate, right, there's another $15. You're up to $500. Then you throw your GST on top, you're up to $550 to install a deadlock on somebody's unit door. Now, a lot of people around the country are going to go, oh, that's outrageously expensive. Well, it's not us that's upping the price here, is it? So that's why I started to reconsider these locks here, because they're coming in at the same price Lockwoods were when they were on special, and it gives us just a little bit of room to make a little bit of margin. And that's why they're well worth considering. And when you check it out and you say, okay, well, let's consider this product, you start seeing all the different benefits and you say, oh my god, it's a more superior product, and then it becomes a bit of a no-brainer. All right, so I've just removed 4 screws. Let's get back to it. Now I'm just going to lift this whole mechanism up in one piece. You see that? This whole mechanism, one piece. Look at that. A little bit of red grease on it, that's fine, that's not a problem. Not as much as you could say like some of those T-handles where you take it out and you get it all over the place. Just enough to keep it going, red grease. If we want to rehand this latch right here, we just grab this bad boy and flip it round. And when I turn it sideways, I can see that there's a little divot there where a spring-loaded ball bearing is recentering it. So there's 2 of them on either side, so you're getting a firm click, listen. You're getting a firm click when it locks into position. That's how you rehand one of these. Not like the 001 where you've got to put it in a vise and you've got to smash it all the way down and then rotate that bit of die cast and smash it back on. No. Or like the 001 where you had to push out the roll pins. No. The earlier model 001s, 25 years ago, those ones. You flip it around, left and right. Your whole mechanism's at one piece, so there's no springs flying out. There's a lot less moving parts compared to the 001 that we know and are used to. Alright, so now, access to rekeying this lock. Well, there you go, there you have it. I could, as you know with 355s, when you pop up the center, you got that spring and the 2 locking pins that you got to worry about. With this, you don't. It's one complete unit. All of it's set, just like that. So you undo those 2 screws, leave it all in the housing, come through with your follower and your key, push it out like any other cylinder and rekey it. The cylinder, the pins go this way. Okay, the latch goes that way. Pins this way, latch that way. So you put it back together in the same fashion you got it apart, but just for reference. Okay, so this also has the little green and red indicator. We'll put it back together and I'll show you that. It also has the deadlocking function here, and as you know with the 001s you had to collect that little spring. Well, this is all in there. I'm not going to be able to lose anything, and look, I'll go like this, nothing's falling out, nothing's moving, I'm not dropping pins or springs or anything on the job site. So already I can say that it's a superior lock because it's a little bit more foolproof on dismantling. Dismantling and rekeying is down to 6 screws, 4 of them being on this main mechanism and the other 2 being on the back of the cylinder, just the same as any cam screws like these that you're dealing with. A little bit bigger, but same. I'm not sure if it is a 6-pin, but judging by the front cylinder, I would assume that it would be a 6-pin 570 plug in the housing. I would assume it would be. They wouldn't go that much trouble for the front and all the rest to put that in to make it compatible for locksmiths, friendly for locksmiths, you know, to not do that. Even just not having to buy another cylinder housing when you're putting this on restricted saves you money. Oh, look at that, I've put it in the wrong way. Actually, I'll just fix that now, because I know I'm going to get out on a job, go fix this, and what's going to happen? I'm going to have to pull it apart, flip it around, or I'm going to fit it, look at it, and say, oh fuck, pull it off the door again. So I'm just going to put it back to its original configuration. 4 screws. Okay, we're done there. I'm just going to flip it up a little bit, just enough. Click, click, drop it back in, and tighten it. So I must say, on rehanding this, as far as open out or open inwards, yeah, it's fairly quick. I'm very happy with the mechanism. I like the way it's not putting grease all over my hands too. Thanks Carbine for thinking of me, or not making my hands dirty. Isn't that good? Locks that you can pull apart without getting your hands dirty. You're still going to get them a little bit dirty, but okay. Okay, so now the mechanism is back in. That's fine. Let's just put this plate on top just for good luck. That's fine. So you put it on and then you push the lock backwards, just like a Lockwood. Alright, so one of the benefits of this lock is that you only need to push this secondary in a little bit to get the latch to dead latch. With a Lockwood, you had to really push it in all the way to get it to dead latch, which meant that you had to get your positioning of your striker plate within a 3 to 5 mil gap for the latch to become a solid dead latch. And then you'd see plenty of these locks or Lockwood 001s which were installed badly, where it wasn't pushed in enough and somebody could get a credit card and slide their deadlock open. Despite the efforts of the lock and the installation and all that sort of stuff, the whole lock would be defeated by a credit card. As we're with this carbine, they've made the gap, the locking ability to lock the secondary, even better by allowing us not to have to push all the way in. This makes a difference because if your door and your frame are too far apart, which I've seen on many occasion, you're not going to be able to deadlock this, get this deadlatching, which means you can't shim it open with a credit card. You're not going to be able to unless you have one or the other hanging off the door. You either have the lock overhanging the door, which looks absolutely nasty. For an example, your door would be here and your lock would be here, you could say, okay? Or your striker plate would be doing the same thing and then sometimes hitting the door. You don't want anything like that. You want these two parts to be on the edge of the door, fitted to the exact edge of the door. So if that was my door right there, I want that 100% on the line like that. And if not, I want the lock 100% on the line like that. And because the frames and the locks vary, as everything does in life, it's often not easy to get it looking nice, lined up, or within that tolerance to be able to lock the dead latch, get the dead latch secondary function working. That's a secondary function. When that's pushed in and that's solid, that's a secondary function working. Okay, because this is a dead latch. It goes dead when the door is locked so that you can't shim it, as we all know. This lock has a greater tolerance, which means the gap can be slightly bigger, allowing this latch to be solid. So it has that over Lockwood 001. So you're going to get a, how do you say, it's got more tolerance to dead latch. And if you're going to be installing one of these, you want it to dead latch. Imagine you install one for a customer and you get a call, oh, we got locked out and we were able to shim it open. They're not going to be happy with you if you've just charged them $400 to $500 for a dead latch. And this lock here has that built in, the ability to have a wider gap. So that's awesome. It just means that they've got your back a little bit and you're covered a little bit, so that way you're not there struggling trying to position. Like I could position these just by eye, especially with the Lockwood 001. I could position to exactly where it needs to go, but sometimes the doors just don't allow you to. Sometimes the door is further away, or somebody's come along with a big planer. Jimmy the handyman's come along and given it a good rasping on the edge of the door. Now the door's got an 8mm gap. Like, what are you going to do? Tell the customer you've got 8mm gap, go get your door replaced and all this? You can't. They want that there. You want to make your money, get the job done. So sometimes you're under the whip, under the gun, and you can do the other tricks, where they put a screw in here to be able to catch this secondary and push it right in, but it looks bloody ugly. So just that ability to not have to be within that 3mm tolerance, you can actually go up to 5, I think it is, or so. Where is it? It would say it here, but anyway, that gap generally has been enlarged, so that's cool. All right, let's go over one more thing here. All right, so here you have a secondary function. The key goes in. I'll do it in this position so that way we can talk about 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock. The key goes in at 12 o'clock. I'm rotating to about 3 or 4 o'clock. I'm taking my key out, back at the 12 o'clock position, and the inside knob is locked. From the outside here, okay, I'll just use this. I'm going to come in and I'm going to turn my key. I'm turning my key, and I've turned my key to probably about 1 or 2 o'clock on the door, and we've already gone to green and already unlocked. And we can do that on both sides. As we're with the Lockwood 001, you would need to put your key and then turn it all the way around. I think it's like probably down from 12 o'clock down to almost 5 o'clock to get it to turn off the secondary. And now I'm going to turn it anti-clockwise to demonstrate it, and look how far I've turned it, if you can see that. Okay, so here is level. I've turned it about one notch or 2 notches on a clock, that far, and we're basically back to green. So it kicks off its internal double locking function quite well and quite fast, so that's interesting. Alright, so that is the Carbine Alpha. I would happily use it in place of a 001, and I will be using it in place of a 001, mainly because of the extra functions and the price. I like it more, and it is an Australian company made in Australia, so we should be supporting them, as they're also supporting us to help us make profit by keeping their cost of their product down at a reasonable cost. Because customers, although things have gone up, customers are not happy paying those type of prices when they say, oh, it's just a deadlock, it's just a standard one. So there is a sort of medium soft point that customers are happy paying, and when it starts getting to $500 for a deadlock, it starts to sound a bit rough. And I think you get a lot of customers calling around. So if it's in a reasonable type price range, I think a lot of people will just say, yeah, just put that on, go for it. When you start talking $5,000 for a deadlock or a deadlatch to be installed, it's really starting to sound a bit much. So there's more margin for us. It's better for our clients as well when the prices are down lower. You know, so it's a win-win all round. Plus, on top of that, the extra functions that we are getting here. Don't panic too much if you've got the old 001 strikes. A lot of the time you can get away with using them. They are interchangeable. And the old packing plates. That's one of the reasons that I didn't want to take on. I thought I was going to go buy packing plates. I'm going to go buy half a dozen strikes, you know, swap them out of the car, or then we've got to carry both. But generally, because they are interchangeable, I think, you know, we'll mix and match a little bit here or there and get away with it. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with the lock. Price-wise, design-wise, fitting-wise, all of it, even the whole back, like, you couldn't fault it. It seems like a pretty rock-solid product. So that's the Carbine Alpha. Leave your comments down below if you've had any problems, if you know of any problems, because I don't think there are any ones with problems out there at the moment. And let us know also if you fitted them, how long it took you, were you impressed with it, was it challenging, all that sort of stuff, and did you have any issues on fitting it, because most likely not. Looking at it, it's straightforward. I'm going to be fitting a couple of these this week, so hopefully I'll get it on camera. We'll see how that goes. Alright, that's my rant for the day. Leave your comments down below, and thanks for watching.